And now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Yes, here we are again, another day committed to picking a fight with the mainstream media and always providing you positive information here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Timely truths around real estate, credit, finance, estate plans, tax plans, and so much more. We're going to talk a lot about valuation of real estate today. We've got our expert contributor in studio, Ray Hall. Welcome back in, Ray.
Thank you for having me back. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ray Hall Appraisals in the house. We want you to save our hotline number in your phone. At some point, you're going to need it, 813-670-7372. And we want to make sure that we engage you so that we can help you win, 813-670-7372.
You used to call me on my cell phone.
And we want to help you win in any marketplace. We're going to educate, entertain, enlighten, and most importantly, we want to engage with you so we can help you win.
The only thing I'm addicted to right now is winning.
Save our hotline number in your phone. At some point, you're going to need it, 813-670-7372. 813-670-7372. You can call or text that line with any comments, questions, concerns. Had a lot of calls last week as well, people looking to list their real estate properties for sale. We love getting that call. We had a lot of people calling in wondering more about identity theft and credit improvement and ways that you can help improve those credit scores, a big area of concern. And this segment is brought to you by the Bilmar Beach Resort, the official hotel partner of the Consumer Quarterback Show. The Bilmar Beach Resort on beautiful Treasure Island. It's filled with fantastic and generous amenities to make your vacation that much more special. The Bilmar Beach Resort on beautiful Treasure Island has the Sloppy Joe's restaurant on site. There's multiple bars. You got nightly music, live music, 2 pools. Great place to go hang out. Newly renovated as well. Looks great over there. The Bilmar Beach Resort on Treasure Island. Give Clyde Smith a call. He's the general manager. Call him up. Ask to speak with Clyde Smith, the general manager. Let him know the real estate quarterback sent you. Take him up on special offers and incentives just by mentioning that you're a fan of the Consumer Quarterback Show. And as you know, I'm the owner of the Platinum MVP team here in Tampa Bay. And we got a couple of hot listings I want to let you know about here. This one's on St. Pete Beach, 3607 Casablanca Avenue, St. Pete Beach. Beautiful property, active, just hit the market a couple days ago. Beautiful pool home, and it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath property. And one of the best things about this is the location and the walkability of this property on St. Pete Beach, Casablanca. It's perfectly positioned right between the Hotel Zamora, and you also have the Don Cesar, 2 of the best, St. Pete properties, in my opinion, hotels, that is, in St. Pete Beach. Now, the lifestyle, the walkability, the biking, walking over to the beach, the ability to have your own private beach. This is a great opportunity. $418,000, 3607 Casablanca Avenue. Check out PlatinumMVPTeam.com. All right, let's jump right into it. We got Ray Hall Appraisals in the house.
I am.
And today, a lot of there's so many things to talk about when it comes to valuation of real estate properties. There's so many misconceptions, and a buyer and a seller, once they agree to a price point, a lot of times it depends on if it's a lending institution involved or a cash money deal. There's a lot of variables when it comes to appraisals, Ray.
There is, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what the appraiser's looking at, what we're looking for, why that value is coming in where it's at. And unfortunately, there's a lot more avenues to get those misconceptions these days. I don't know how many times I get the argument, well, Zillow said.
Zillow said, oh my goodness.
Zillow said this, Zillow said that. And my response was always, well, Zillow never came over your house and saw the inside.
Right.
Zillow is pulling from public records. They're looking at that sale up the street, but they don't know about the $20,000 in concessions that were given on that property.
Yep, good point.
And, the thing I tell people right now is we've had a great market for the past several years now, and values are really nice. So now is not the time to overpay for a house.
Right.
Now is not the time to play guesswork on value.
Yep.
Go into this transaction because it's one of the biggest purchases you're ever going to make in your life, and you don't want to be underwater right off the bat, because if value do start to go down,
Yep.
you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you are doing your due diligence. You know, we talk a lot about due diligence. You want to look at dollar per square foot. I mean, it really doesn't it come down to a lot of times a dollar per square foot in the community. And then, of course, you get into, you know, the pool or the corner lot versus, you know, the view and those types of things. But really, when you look at it, you know, you're looking at dollar per square foot a lot of times.
Right. And now I will say most residential appraisers don't look at the dollar per square foot. I'm what they call a certified general appraiser. I do commercial and residential. And by working with the commercial appraisal industry, I also learned to use that as kind of a check of reasonableness.
Okay.
You know, I come to that value. Well, am I in that range? And the reason I do it, and a lot of appraisers might disagree with me, but you guys as the agents are out there selling these properties on a price per square foot. I really shouldn't ignore that.
Right.
So, you know, it does kind of give me that secondary check and just something to look at. Now, appraisers usually look at overall sale price because we're adjusting for all those little, you know, nuances down the grid. If you've ever seen an adjustment grid, there's a whole lot of things that we're considering.
Right.
You know, so we don't do the price per square foot because that's a separate line item on the adjustment grid for the GLA.
Got it.
And then the bathroom count is a different line item. Pool, energy efficient items, site size. Because remember, your price per square foot includes the price of that land.
Yeah, lot size versus the other lots. You know, this one's 9,000. That was 11,000 square foot lot.
Right.
You got to adjust up for that or
Exactly.
down for that.
Exactly. And that's something we do on our sheet. So we look at it a little different from the realtors, but again, we should be within that range of what we're seeing in the market.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you look at, you know, the market too. And I like to go back to, you know, we think back. A lot of times people throw this out there as they say, well, what if real estate properties go down? You know, I just look at the, you know, through the S&L crisis, the savings and loans crisis, through the Y2K, the meltdown that was supposed to happen because all the clocks weren't going to turn 999, they were going to go to 2000. All these things that happen. Historically, real estate has still gone up year over year. The only exception to that rule is the worst time in our American history of irrational exuberance, where you had politicians and lobbyists and loosening up the guidelines and just irrational loan programs, the stated monies, the no income, no doc program. That's why the market crashed at that point with the real estate market. Now, in my opinion, I don't ever see that happening again. I see real estate as the most stable class of assets because you can insure the asset. People have to live somewhere. They're not making any more Mother Earth, especially Pinellas County, one of the most densely, I think it is the most densely populated in the state. So with all that said, do you really see a situation where property values could go down?
I say never.
Right.
We did see property values go down, but eventually it's like you look at the stock market.
Okay.
A stock drops, the stock tanks. It usually will have somewhat of a rebound because people start buying it.
Yeah, once it hits low point,
right,
there's perceived value.
Exactly. And the real estate's the same way. I remember I heard a statistic once that more wealth was created during the Great Depression than any other time period in American history. The reason why? Everything got so cheap.
Yep, that's right.
Investors that are out there now, sure, the ones who are good at what they do and know where to get the deals, they're out there finding properties.
Yeah.
But if we go, God forbid, into another recession, they're out there. That's when they're hustling.
Yeah.
So that's where the real estate values come back. So, even if we do have a decline, or I'd like to say a correction.
Yep.
It'll usually bounce back. I mean, and like you said, they're not making any more land.
Yep.
You go out to Pinellas County. I mean, if you have a couple acres of vacant land in Pinellas County, man,
you're sitting on a gold mine.
Yep.
Especially some of these nurseries, those plant nurseries, those folks like that. I love calling on FSBOs like that, for sale by owners, and talking to them about the value and the potential there. But that's a great point. Is in Pinellas County, one of the best counties in the state, to live in. You're surrounded by water, peninsula, just a great place to live, work, and play. 40 miles of beaches, in Tampa Bay. So we're talking with Ray Hall Appraisals here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes. And it's a great debate. It's interesting when you look at, let's look on a macro level for a moment, right? Let's pull back, the globe here and look kind of like that Google Earth looking down, right? So when you think about that, when you look at a situation where there's billions of dollars of student loans, millions and billions of dollars of student loans, right? There's a lot of uncertainty in the stock market, even though we are moving right along really well. You know, we got the Trump tax plans, everything's, you know, really booming. Unemployment is at its lowest in you know, the history. A lot of good things happening, and I think sometimes as human beings we do have that short memory. You know, we have that short memory. But you know, my point is, if there is a bubble in student loans, that's going to negatively affect certain markets, and I don't think real estate is going to be a market that's affected by that, because people are going to put more money into real estate.
Yeah,
and the same with the stock market.
Yep. I absolutely agree with you 100%. You know, it's a different lending, it's a different loan type. You know, so as long as, you know, we keep that healthy real estate market and the mortgage lending healthy, and I think that was one of the main problems from 2005, 2006, where, you know, people just stopped paying on those mortgages.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was where the problem came in. That's where a lot of the failures happened.
That's right.
You know, a lot of people like to point fingers and blame this, that, and the other, but you don't pay your loan. That's the start of it.
Yeah. They had first payment defaults. I remember I worked for Argent Mortgage back in the day. Argent Mortgage, the wholesale side of AmeriQuest. And I remember they started talking about on the national conference calls these first payment defaults, and I was like, whoa. And then the president at the time, I think his name was Wayne Lee, he resigned. So a lot of the big dogs, they saw what's happening. They saw the writing on the wall. They got out of the business or went to a different lender, and there's a lot of changes that happened. But when we come back, I want to talk with Ray Hall here, Ray Hall Appraisals. I want to talk about these hedge funds, these so-called buyers, huge buying groups, and they come in and they have these different gimmick type marketing where they're going to claim to have, you know, the lowest fees or the lowest commissions and the easiest turnkey system and why list your house and all these things. I'm going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the actual statistics of what happens there. Stay with us right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show. For more information, go to consumerqb.com.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
Ian Beckles.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Brandon Rhymes here. I'm your host of the Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty, number one real estate company in the world. We're at the number one office on the Gulf Coast, and we have a great team over there. My wife and I own and operate the Platinum MVP team, which is platinummvpteam.com, and we're looking for real estate agents that might want to join our team right now. We're growing and we're expanding. We're setting records. Things are really happening right now in the real estate game, so we'd love to talk to you about that. If you are interested in the real estate market, we'd love to talk to you. Buying, selling, or investing, platinummvpteam.com. This segment is brought to you by the Lucky Dill Restaurant, the official restaurant partner of the Consumer Quarterback Show. The Lucky Dill Restaurant, they've got locations in Tampa and Palm Harbor, in Clearwater. Their restaurant, they got a deli, New York City bar, Brooklyn bakery, catering as well. They are the home of the sandwich that ate Brooklyn. They've got some great food over there. Give them a call, walk in, check them out, let them know the real estate quarterback sent you. You heard about them here on the Consumer Quarterback Show at the Lucky Dill Restaurant, and all you have to do is let them know that, and they're going to hook you up with a free water with lemon every time. They're going to take care of you. Just kidding with you there. But the Lucky Dill, great restaurant partner here in Tampa Bay. And we're back here in studio helping you win in any marketplace. Coming up, we got 4 straightforward steps to success. We're going to talk about that. A great article from the legend Jim Rohn himself. 4 straightforward steps to success here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. In studio here, we've got Ray Hall Appraisals, and I want to have Rob bring up this property, this listing on 207 Coronado Drive, Clearwater Beach. 207 Coronado Drive, Clearwater Beach. This is an opportunity for a business owner, developer, entrepreneur for a great property. Now, the challenge with the property is you got a 5,500 plus square foot lot. Okay, so you got a relatively small footprint lot here in Tampa Bay. Across the street, though, you've got the Wyndham Grand. You've got adjacent to it is the Hyatt. Those are multiple $100 million properties as well on Clearwater Beach, the number one beach in the world, Clearwater Beach. And of course, so this is a great opportunity. So this is, I wanted to mention this with Ray here in studio. Ray's a commercial property appraiser. He does residential appraisal. This property's priced at $3.5 million. And granted, a lot of the buyers, of course, are going to say, well, that's too high. What are they willing to take? That type of thing. But in that situation, I always say as a listing agent, just make an offer. Make an offer close to list price if you can. Now, how is it different when you're valuing a property like that versus a regular residential property in a gated community, 3-2 home? You know what I mean?
Well, there's a lot more analysis that's going to go into that property.
Yeah.
I have to consider a lot more. Now, the average house is zoned residential. A lot of the ones I do are in planned unit developments.
Yep.
The future land use designations are residential. It's a lot more cut and dry.
Right.
Looking at that property, I first have to figure out what can you do with it.
What can you do with it? Yeah.
As you see, the
potential.
Right. The improvements are older. Now they could choose to renovate. They could choose to rebuild. That's another part I have to do. On a residential report, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the appraisal reports.
Yeah.
That highest and best use section is pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
In my commercial reports, it's at least 2 pages long.
Because that's what it boils down to, is the highest and best use. Now, whose opinion is the highest and best use?
Well, that's the determination I have to make. And a great example of that I have is I once got hired to appraise a half-acre Indian mound.
Wow.
Now, most people, what's an Indian mound?
Yeah.
And, and it's
Is it a burial site?
It could be anything.
Yeah.
And I'll give you the background on this one. It was called a temple mound.
Okay.
So this was a early Florida tribe of Indians. They're no longer around.
Yep.
And this was where their holy man lived. When the holy man would die, he was placed into the temple. It was burned down, covered. New temple went up. So by the time they moved along or whatever, it was about 25 feet high and about an acre.
Wow.
So first thing I had to do was call the state and say, what can you do with this property? And I enjoyed the answer. They said, anything you want to do, just do it the right way.
Wow.
So now I had to call University of South Florida, the archaeological department, and say, what's it going to cost to excavate this?
Yeah.
And the guy said, well, I know a company that does it, friend owned. Let me call them up. He called back, said it's going to cost $1 million.
Wow.
Well, the lot's not worth $1 million.
Right.
So I had to determine what's the highest and best use, which was transfer the development rights to another parcel that was adjacent to for development. So, there's that part of the analysis. So on that particular appraisal I did, the valuation was the easy part. It was figuring out what you can do with it. And that's similar to your property on Coronado.
Right.
What's its zoned? Can they put something? Can they put a hotel on there? Can they put more retail on there?
Yep.
Clearwater Beach has its own zoning. Well, it's its own municipality.
Yeah.
So they have their own rules and regulations and what you can do and setbacks and things like that.
Right.
So that's where the difference comes in.
Yep.
Most residential properties are pretty cookie cutter and set up the right way. Commercial, you never know what you're going to get from day to day.
Whole different animal over there. So with
animal.
that, going back to that Indian mound, did you call it?
Yes.
Indian mound. What ended up happening with that property? So they were saying that you wanted to excavate that, take that out, and move it to an Indian reservation or something like that?
No. You leave it the way it is.
Okay.
The way most development happens is you have your parcel. You have your acreage.
Yep.
And it has a lot of times what they call a future land use designation.
Okay.
And it tells them they can put 10 units per acre, 12 units per acre, whatever.
Right.
So basically, it's not telling you where you have to put your units. It's telling you how many. The bigger the property, the more units you can put. So we determined that with this particular property, if you joined it to the adjacent vacant land, you would be able to get 2 more units on.
Okay.
And that was confirmed with, all the powers that be. Assembling the property.
Yep.
You could get 2 more units.
Okay.
So it made that property a little more valuable.
Interesting.
So basically, we took our land sales, priced them on a price per allowable unit basis, which is a lot of times what developable land goes for.
Yep.
And that's how we could put that value on that property.
Wow. Yeah. Man, that's interesting. It's interesting stuff when you look at that. Commercial is a completely different animal. There's you're looking at the future use of the land, and that's another thing that comes up is sometimes people say, oh, well, you could put this on this, and you could add this many units, and they expect you to get that value for the property. I've sold numerous parcels where there was a single family home in the middle of, say, for example, 5 or 8 acres, and they say, well, yeah, you could put all these different houses, but yeah, that's the future. People got to spend money to get to that point.
Right, and you also have to consider. What I found once, I was doing a piece of land and they were looking at it that the zoning or the future land use would allow me to do 20 units. Mm-hmm. But we had to look at the roadway. It was a 2-lane roadway, residential roadway, that it had, I know in Hillsborough County, we have what's called a level of service. And if you're below a certain level of service, you may have to pay for the widening of that road to increase the level of service so that you can get your residents in and out of this property you're thinking you can put 2 units on.
And medical and fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But a lot of times you see a new development has what they call acceleration lanes and deceleration lanes, and you can't fit those in a 2-lane roadway.
Wow.
So I've even seen where they wanted a developer to widen the interstate because they felt that their project was going to increase the traffic.
Wow.
So there's a lot of variables in real estate development that have to be considered before you can slap that value and say, well, it's a $2 million property.
Wow, absolutely. Yeah, and of course, by the way, if you just joined us, Brandon Rhymes here. I'm your host. We got Ray Hall in the house, local appraisal company, Ray Hall Appraisals. What's the website again, Ray?
RayHallAppraisals.com or RayTheAppraiser.com.
RayHallAppraisals.com. And so, a plethora of knowledge here about value when we're talking about this, Ray. So, and I appreciate this. This is a fun conversation. Let's talk about some of these hedge funds, these so-called, fast close buyers, these people that come in. To me, it's misleading marketing where they say, oh, we're not going to charge you a listing fee. We're going to charge you a reduced fee. What are you seeing in that particular, and a lot of times it's these hedge funds, these billionaire hedge funds or people that are smart marketers, but necessarily, I don't think it's necessarily best for the consumer.
Well, remember, no one's out there doing all this for free.
Right.
Someone's making money somewhere. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these companies you see that are doing this, they're not charging you that fee up front. It's almost like when you buy a mutual fund.
Yep.
You don't see them take fees out of your out of your investment. It's in the back end. So a lot of these companies, and I see them now, and I actually have to put a discussion in my appraisal reports because I have to report on prior sales. Mm-hmm. So I can see where a lot of these companies are buying for $20,000 below market.
Yep.
And then reselling it a few months later. So, just know you can close quick, maybe, but they're taking their fee somewhere.
Yeah.
They're just not charging you up front.
Yeah, that's right. So when you look at that, these hedge funds, their model is buy it low, like all real estate investors, buy it as low as you can. You make money on the buy side. These are things that when you're in the real estate space, you make your money on the buy side. Right. So they buy it low. They slap some, lipstick on the pig, so to speak, is what people call it. And they do the renovations in a way where it's just the quick and easy ones. They're not going to remove load-bearing walls in most cases. They're going to do the basic stuff. Let's do some granite in the kitchen. Maybe some new flooring, slap down some, cheap carpet maybe in the bedrooms. Yep. That's most likely what I see. Is that what you're? And
that's what I've seen too. When I go into those homes, because a lot of, I'm doing the appraisal for the purchase of them. Fresh paint throughout, maybe some new laminate flooring.
Yep.
But like you said, there's no renovated kitchens. There's no new granite, stainless steel, anything like that. Mm-hmm. They clean it up, they fix it up, they improve the curb appeal.
Yeah, that's right.
They're pretty good at doing that, knowing, there might be some new mulch out front with some flowers.
Yeah.
So it looks great. But, if that was your house before,
you lost a lot of money. You lost a lot of potential dollars on the sale. Yeah, and those guys, what also is happening there, guys, is that they're pulling money out of the local economy. A lot of these are national hedge funds. They're pulling the money out of our local title companies as well. They're doing it with a national title company. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to work with those companies. And we actually buy houses cash too with our company as well. PlatinumMVPTeam.com. Stay with us. Ray Hall Appraisals in the house. And our feel-good story of the day. Husband and wife plant 2.7 million trees in 20 years to restore a destroyed forest. Stay with us. Consumer Quarterback Show, ConsumerQB.com.
This is Work Done, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at ConsumerQB.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Brandon Rhymes here. I'm your host of the Consumer Quarterback Show and a top listing agent in Tampa Bay, helping our sellers maximize the profit on the sale of their real estate properties. That's our #1 goal for our sellers, is to help you maximize your profit. And we feature your properties in ways that other real estate companies just simply cannot compete with. Apple TV, Amazon, Roku, Sony TV, in a lot of different places, over 90 outlets now. iHeartRadio, got the iTunes podcast as well. 5 o'clock drive time on 5 o'clock drive time, that is, on 1380 The Biz. You got a weekend show on FM 102.5 The Bone as well. So we're getting a lot of exposure for our listing clients. We got a property here in Gulfport. This one's 5127 27th Avenue in Gulfport. This property is a completely updated and renovated property, 5127 27th Avenue, Gulfport. Now this one, it's a gorgeous property, 2-bedroom units up front. You've got a duplex and then also another unit in the back as well. It's interesting in Gulfport, though, you can't have all 3 units rented out. It's an interesting rule they have in Gulfport. Interesting rule. But check out PlatinumMVPTeam.com, PlatinumMVPTeam.com for all your real estate needs. Have you come across that, Ray? That's something that happens a lot, is certain municipalities kind of hampering the homeowner in a certain situation. Like that one has a duplex up front,
right?
And you've got another separate structure in the back that could be, you could literally have 3 tenants in there if you were allowed, but you can't. You can actually live in one, and it would have to serve as a in-law type suite.
Right, and that's to work around certain zoning. I've seen it where I did one house where it was completely illegal. It was single family, and it was a clear-cut duplex. And I remember talking to the county about, what's the rules on this? And it was actually, how big is the second unit? I'm like, well, it's 50-50. They said no. And it was something like, if one unit is 20% of the whole, we can just call that an accessory unit. Then it's not a duplex. This case, it was illegal. But, situations like that, some of these little, like Gulfport, a lot of municipalities out in Pinellas County.
Yep.
And sometimes they do that to make sure maybe that the owner's on site.
Yep.
So that the property stays looking nice and the community stays looking nice. So sometimes they're putting those things in there to, help the neighborhood. But
that's the motivation. The secondary motivation behind that is to have an owner on the property with the idea that this owner is going to put money into the property more so than a tenant would. Right.
But on the flip side, it's like, hey, I'm trying to invest in the neighborhood and I'm trying to generate some income, and to have a unit I can't use.
Yeah, really. The way that property sits is that you have to use it strictly as a guest house. So if you have family in town for 2 weeks, okay, they can stay there, but you can't put somebody in there full time.
Right, which would be telling interesting if you want to tell your seller.
Yeah.
What about using the third unit as an Airbnb, which is usually done on a weekly basis?
Yeah, good point. I mean, that's potential. There's potential there. But yeah, it's interesting how, in this real estate world, we're navigating all these different rules and county and city and these different areas of zoning. And but yeah, Airbnb, that's a whole different.
It's a new thing that's becoming popular and
very popular.
How does that work with the old zoning
St.
regulations?
Pete, for example, some areas, I believe in St. Pete, you can't do the Airbnbs, or it's frowned upon. I think it's one of these things where sometimes they let it go as long as you're not, putting a big sign in the front yard, Airbnb,
right.
Check out Airbnb. There's certain municipalities that control that, and it's kind of a balancing system, because on one hand you want it to be protecting the homeowners, and the same thing with the HOA. You don't want somebody painting their house some crazy, weird color that's just, an eyesore, or parking, the old, the fixer-up trucks and cars in the front yard on blocks and stuff like that. So people, I don't want an HOA, but on the other hand, if you don't have one, sometimes it could be a detriment.
Yep, and luckily I've gotten away with having my old Jeep in the driveway in my HOA, but so no one's come to me yet.
You got a Jeep? You got the four-wheel drive type Jeep or something?
I do. Yeah. I have a 95 Wrangler. I love going out on my Wave Runner.
Yeah.
And I used to tow it with my old car, but then when I bought a new car, I said maybe it's time to buy something old.
Yeah,
so I
cool.
bought an old 95 Wrangler, and
nice.
Yep. So the neighbors just shake their head at me as I drive down the street.
Got the big tires,
I do, and in fact, I just got bigger ones. So I gotta.
Nice.
It's my project vehicle.
What you got? 32s, 33s.
Right now, I think I have 30. What do I have? 34 34s, 30,
Nice.
something like that. And a friend of mine, he just turned in his lease and gave me his 36s.
Wow.
So
cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I missed that growing up in a country town. I grew up in, doing some mud bogging and all that good stuff back in the day.
See, I'm up in New Tampa, so it's pretty much country up there.
Yeah, there you go. You quick drive, you're out in the woods somewhere.
Yep.
If you just joined us, Brandon Rhymes here. We're talking with Ray Hall, owner of Ray Hall Appraisals, rayhallappraisals.com. Here's an interesting story, or stats rather. Buyer demand surging as spring market begins. So last fall, some predicted that the 2019 residential real estate market would be a disaster. There was even belief that we might be experiencing a housing crash like the one that occurred during the last decade. However, according to two separate reports, buyer demand drastically increased the last 3 months. Leading into this spring's buyer's market, the March data is not available yet, but both Showing Time Index and the National Association of Realtors Buyer Traffic Index show that buyer demand has increased in each of the last 3 months.
And I've seen it.
You've seen it. I've seen it.
With new purchases, even with refinancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the recent change in rates had something to do with that. But I know my volume it feels like it's almost doubled.
Yeah.
In the past, especially the past 30 days.
Yeah, it's interesting. So why the increase in demand? Increased buying power. According to the National Association of Realtors Economist Outlook blog, purchasing a home has become more affordable, which has led to increased demand.
Yeah. And I'm glad to see it.
Yeah.
Let's keep this healthy market going.
That's right.
And what I'm glad to see also is, I'm seeing the volume go up, but we're not seeing, again, those drastic increases that we saw back in 2005, 2006. The ridiculous 20% a week, flipping new construction contracts before the house is even built.
Yes.
We're not seeing that. We're seeing healthy growth.
What's your opinion on
healthy
healthy growth?
Slow and steady.
3 to 5%.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range.
Nothing, dramatic. A lot of times when I'm running a market analysis, I might see early in the year the average might have been 150,000. Mm-hmm. Then middle of the year it got to 160. Mm-hmm. And then maybe we're at 165.
Yeah.
That's slow growth.
Yeah.
Like anything, you never want to build it tall and fast.
Yeah.
You want that support, you want that base, you want the foundation. And you want to go from there.
What do you think about also as well in the neighborhood? Okay, so you've got this planned unit development (PUD). Mm-hmm. You've got all these homes. I've heard it said, and it's you don't ever want to be the largest home in the community. Is that true?
Oh yeah, I always tell people, and I stole this from a movie, but I always say, don't be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I go into that house, and I don't know if I told you the story before. I was doing a house once. It was in just an average neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Very typical home, built in the 1980s. Yep. I did my appraisal, and boy, were they angry. Because in my appraisal, I didn't adjust for the $3,000 doorbell alarm system.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And at the time, probably wasn't a very good response, but I said in my however many years at that point I've been appraising, I've never made a positive adjustment for a superior doorbell.
Yeah.
So don't go out there and spend all this money on all these features. A good example, my sister, she's up in Massachusetts. She's renovating her kitchen, and she said, what do? I said, talk to someone, talk to a realtor, talk to an appraiser, see what everybody else in the neighborhood is doing. Yeah. If everyone else is getting Formica, don't get quartz. Yeah. You're probably not going to get that back. Right. Stay with, I always also say get what you want, but don't go overboard, or at least don't have that expectation that now your house is considerably more valuable than everybody else's, because you're more than likely going to be disappointed at the end. Yeah.
It's called over-improving an asset. A lot of times you can over-improve the asset, and essentially you're throwing money into an asset that you're not going to get the money out of. Mm-hmm. Similar, you hear, oh, well, if I put a pool in, that's going to automatically get me $30,000 more. Mm-hmm. Probably not. It's probably going to be closer to, $15-20 grand, depending on variables.
Depending on where you are. And I just built a pool. Did you? And, I used somebody I knew and everything else, but even though I got, a good price on it, I didn't get the price back in the value on my house. I probably got maybe, from what I looked at, maybe $10,000 or $15,000 in value. Yeah. But I have the pool. The kids are happy, so it's worth it. So
it's lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I love sitting out there.
Lifestyle preference. And then when you go to sell that home, your days on the market will most likely be less days on the market than a home that may not have a pool. And then also the flip side of that is investors, if they're buying a home to rent it, they don't want a pool. They don't want the liability a lot of times.
Right. They don't want the liability, and now they usually get the pool service because a lot of the tenants don't want to put that chloramine. That's why I put the salt system in. I highly recommend that.
Yeah, salt's the way to go, right? Salt's the way to go now.
You don't mess with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the investors, they don't that liability or just the maintenance on it.
Okay.
In fact, I used to own a house with a pool. I know some investors had purchased it, and last time I drove by it, they filled the pool in and put a basketball hoop up.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So,
play some hoops instead.
I guess so, yeah.
Well, when we come back, I want to ask you, we're talking with Ray Hall Appraisals here. I want to ask you about solar technologies and the value that it may bring to real estate properties. I want to ponder that question. And then also, we're going to jump into our feel-good story of the day. We still have 4 straightforward steps to success as well coming up here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. And our feel-good story is a good one, man. Husband and wife plant 2.7 million trees in 20 years to restore a destroyed forest. Stay with us right here on Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, this is Jarek Robbins. You are listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Please do what it takes to learn all that you have to live the life you want to live it fully, and find a way to give it by paying it forward to others.
Get in touch with Brandon online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, welcome back. Brandon Rhymes here, the Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty in Tampa Bay. We want to help you win in all of your real estate dealings, buying, selling, or investing. We would love to talk to you. Of course, we're bringing on agents now as well, setting records and doing a lot of volume right now. So we're really excited about that. A couple of hot properties, 19029 US Highway 19 North. This is over in Clearwater. It's 19029 US 19. Now, this property is a great opportunity, entry-level home, just above $100,000 opportunity here in beautiful Clearwater, Florida. Great opportunity, and it's very close, 20 minutes to the beach. Great opportunity here in Tampa Bay. 11556 110th Terrace over in Largo. This property is another block home, steady construction, and then right out of the backyard, you have access to the Pinellas Trail, one of Florida's most popular and unique urban pathways here in Tampa Bay. A couple of hot real estate properties from the Platinum MVP Team.com.
Somewhere sunny and 75.
All right, every day we're going to tell you something positive in our Feel Good segment.
Tell me something good.
All right, husband and wife plant 2.7 million trees in 20 years to restore a destroyed forest. In the early 1990s, Brazilian photojournalist Sebastião Ribeiro Soldado was stationed in Rwanda to cover the accounts of the genocide. On the ground experience left him traumatized. In 1994, he's returning to his home in Brazil, and he hoped to find solace in the lush lap of green forest where he had grown up. But instead, he found dusty, barren land for miles. In only a few years, his beautiful hometown underwent rampant deforestation. For him, everything was destroyed. He's quoted as saying, "The land was as sick as I was. Only about 0.5% of the land was covered in trees," Salgado told The Guardian. It was at this time that Salgado's wife, Leila, made a near impossible proposal. She expressed her wish to replant the entire forest. Salgado supported her idea, and together the couple set out on a heroic mission. Salgado bought an abandoned cattle ranch from his parents, started building a network of enthusiastic volunteers and partners who fund the sustainable project. In 1998, the couple invested in Terra, an organization which tirelessly worked around the clock to bring the forest back to life. Since 1998, they have planted more than 2.7 million saplings of 293 species of trees and rejuvenated 1,502 acres of tropical forest. In addition, 172 species of birds have returned, 33 species of mammals, 15 species of reptiles, and 15 species of amphibians. Nature is the earth, and it's the only other being, and if we don't have some kind of spiritual return to our planet, I fear that will be compromised, Salgado said. Really cool story, man.
Yeah, look at those photos. That's unbelievable.
That is an amazing story. That's one of the best ones I've read on that segment that we do.
Yeah,
I mean, that's super cool.
They totally transformed that. You know, it's not like where they fixed up a park and put a couple trees. I mean, it looks like the whole... That's unbelievable.
The canopy cover. That was really cool. I like that. So we got Ray Hall in the house. Ray Hall Appraisals. Before the segment break, we talked about solar. Let's just do a quick word on solar, Ray. What do you see in home values? Does it increase the home value? What do you think? Is it personal preference?
A lot of times it is a personal preference, and I have to give the standard appraiser answer of it depends on the neighborhood.
There you go. Yeah.
Like we had just talked about earlier before. If you're the only person within 5 miles with solar, it's going to be a lot harder to see if that value's there. I will say it's definitely becoming more popular.
Yep.
And I think it's because they're coming up with these better programs, and a lot of incentives to make it affordable.
That's right.
A lot of people don't realize it, but here in Florida, our energy costs are reasonable in compared to some other places.
Yep.
So I think that's why it kind of had a slow going, because everyone always thinks you're in Florida, why don't you have solar?
Yep.
But now, the popularity is growing, and if you hold on to that long term, once it's paid for, man, that's a lot of savings every month.
Yeah, the cool thing.
Yeah,
the cool thing that we did, we're looking at it right now, and I think it's a go. I mean, they give you like a 2.9% rate on it. The idea is that you're going to immediately start saving around $100 a month, depending on what your bill is, and then after 10 or 15 years, you pay it down, you pay it off. You have zero electric bill at that point. Versus the other side of that is if you continue to pay. And by the way, we work with 3D Solar. Shout out to David Ringo and Travis McIntyre. 3D Solar, they do a great job with all of our listeners and callers from the show. 3D Solar's they're actually on the Tampa Bay Fast 50 list. They're number 12 on that list. Really kicking butt out there. So what 3D Solar does, so you got the tax credit as well. You got a 30% tax credit. You can roll that back in to pay the payment down, or you can invest it in maybe higher interest rate accounts that you may have.
Yeah, exactly.
So solar's pretty cool, but not necessarily going to affect your home value per se.
Right, and that's like anything, and that's a lot of times where we run into issues with people disagreeing with the values. It all depends on what's going on in the neighborhood. We're not looking at a specific item on a house and slapping a value on that specific item.
Yeah.
I'm not looking, you've got $30,000 in solar, so it's an extra $10,000. That's not what we do.
Okay.
I'm looking at your house. I'm looking what it has. I'm looking at houses that sold and how did they sell?
Right.
An example, I had a house where they had a detached apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And in my inspection, I'm looking at it thinking, wow, this is, they probably got a little bit of value on that. I found comps with detached apartments. I had comps without detached apartments. And I couldn't justify an adjustment for that. It was, and I even mentioned it. I said, this is what I looked at. I looked at this sale compared to this sale and this, that, and the other. And it's just not there. The market's not paying for that. So that's where it comes in. It all depends on where you are.
Yeah.
But, the popularity of solar is growing.
Yep.
And I think as that happens, you're going to, see that start to contribute more value to the sales price of your home.
Sure. Yeah, I can. Let's talk about this article. We've kind of teased this earlier in the show. 4 straightforward steps to success. We like to talk about success here. I'm a published author and a professional speaker. I do a lot of speaking. I'm going to be speaking at an event coming up, the BABA event, Become a Better Agent, on Monday, May 20th here in Tampa Bay. BABA 31 it is. I'm going to be talking about branding, growing your sphere, and also negotiation, how to negotiate like an FBI. So really cool, like an FBI agent, that is. So really cool stuff coming up here. But on that note, here's 4 straightforward steps to success. So Ray and I will pitch and catch here a little bit. So number 1 is collect good ideas. And this is from Jim Rohn, by the way, one of my favorite folks of all time, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. Collect good ideas. My mentor taught me to keep a journal when I was 25-year-old, and it's the best place for collecting all the ideas and information that comes around your way, and inspiration that can be passed on to my children and grandchildren. Pretty cool idea. Keep a journal,
Absolutely.
Success ideas, things that are happening in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I learned. For years I was an appraiser. I worked for other people. And then eventually I went off on my own, started my own business. And I had to learn that quickly was I didn't have all the answers. I didn't have all the know-how.
Right.
So, one thing I have is a lot of time in my car. And I take advantage of all these podcasts out there. I listen to people who are also successful.
Good point.
And I listen to their advice, and I listen to books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would be considered self-help books, but the ones that give the good advice,
Personal development.
Mm-hmm. And it's helped me out tremendously.
Yeah. And it's so easy to do nowadays. There's really no excuse to be stuck in poverty or to be in a position where you're not moving yourself forward, or better yet, moving your family forward, building a legacy for your family. I think that's one of the goals that we should have is, to leave a better life for our children than we have. And my parents certainly did that for me. They gave us all the opportunities. So number 1 is collect good ideas. Number 2 is have good plans. So building a life, building anything is like building a house. You need to have a plan.
Yes.
What if you just started laying bricks and somebody asks, "What are you building?" You put down one, so you think about that, and that's another good point too. Is like the foundation. You walk into a real estate property, you notice the granite, you notice the water view, you notice the beautiful stairway and the foyer. You don't walk in. Most people don't walk into a real estate property and like jump down and feel that foundation.
Yep.
That foundation. That's a super strong foundation. People don't think that way,
And they should.
Yeah.
Because that's where the problems really come to. I mean, some of the counties around here in the Tampa Bay area, have that sinkhole problem where that foundation's affected.
Especially Hernando up north there, Pasco, some parts of Pasco. So have good plans is number 2. So we're talking about 4 straightforward steps to success here, compliments of Jim Rohn. Number 3, give yourself time. It takes time to build a career. It takes time to make changes. It takes time to learn, grow, change, develop, and produce. It takes time to refine philosophy and activity. So give yourself time to learn, start some momentum, and then finally you will achieve.
100%.
Yeah.
I think our society's gotten so impatient because everything is so right there.
That's
that
right.
We want instant sathfaction. We want gratification right away.
That's right.
We want to take that pill and have a 6-pack ab the next day.
That's right.
But it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Nothing good happens without hard work and time.
Yeah. I saw a sign on the way as I was driving in on the side of the road. It said, "Antiques manufactured while you wait." Right? That's it, though.
Yeah, that's exactly
that
it.
encompasses the whole thing. All right, number 4, change yourself. Learn to solve problems, business problems, family problems, financial problems, emotional problems. The best way to treat a challenge as an opportunity to grow, and that's what change is. Change gives you that time. So really, when you look at problems, the problem is not that you have the problem. The problem is that you think it's a problem. The problems are an opportunity to get better, to grow, and to come up with a new idea to fix the solution, to come to a solution.
Exactly. And again, and as you know, as business owners, we're faced with challenges every day.
Yes.
And you learn your limits very quickly.
That's right.
And you learn what you know, and especially what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it does give you that opportunity to learn about things and grow as a business owner, as a person. And then just going back to, educating yourself and learning to, work with people and grow in that respect as well.
That's right. Hey, another great show. Thanks a lot. Ray Hall, RayHallAppraisals.com. Good stuff. A plethora of knowledge. If you're looking for an appraisal or valuation on your property, highly recommend RayHallAppraisals.com. And of course, check out ConsumerQB.com. You can see all of our links to all of our expert contributors there at ConsumerQB.com. A plethora of information available for you on our website and all the contact information as well. We want you to please go out there and consider committing a random act of kindness. Pack up some food or clothing. Carry it with you to and from your commute. Hand it to that person that you see need. Be a force for good in the community and do something kind for one another. Follow us online. We'd love to connect with you at Brandon Rhymes 1 on Instagram and Twitter. The Consumer Quarterback Show page is out there as well on Facebook and LinkedIn. And we'll see you next time right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, helping you win in any marketplace, and ConsumerQB.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show, weekday afternoons at 5 on AM 1380. The Biz.
Are you a real estate agent looking to take your business to the next level and supercharge your marketing? Hi, I'm Brandon Rhymes, owner of Platinum MVP Realty and host of the Real Estate Quarterback Show, syndicated radio and TV show talk program on iHeartRadio, 1025 The Bone, daily 5 o'clock drive time on 1380 The Biz, and our TV show is on WeBeam TV. We're looking for real estate agents that want to join our team and supercharge their marketing utilizing some of our innovative strategies. We utilize the Real Geeks platform, Facebook marketing, internet marketing, and a lot of the traditional methods as well. Postcard mailers mailed for you, postage, signage, business cards, all paid for by the company. Aggressive real estate splits and ways to help you win in any marketplace. We need you to go out, take applications, and work our plethora of leads that we're generating on a daily basis. Reach out by clicking the form below, and we'd love to have a confidential interview with you.